Okay, movie lovers, come on in and don't forget your popcorn because we're gonna be here a while.
I'm Brandon.
And I'm Leia.
Yeah, just trying to do that little DJ thing there. I'm not a practiced DJ, though.
I wouldn't quit either of your day jobs.
Oh, man. Rough crowd already. We just started. Okay, well, anyway, I'm going to suspect that the movie we have on topic today was of surprise to basically no one. I mean, in the States, we have the annual Groundhog Day on February 2nd, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And given that today, the release date for this episode is February 5th, we just missed it. That being the case, obviously, we'll be talking about a movie that was released on February 5th, 2016, the classic Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Brandon, no, that's not what we're covering.
Okay, I know. I just gotta say, Leia, there just seems something so familiar about this discussion. I figured I'd shake it up a bit and see if it changed anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like we've talked about this over and over and over again. Something has to change.
Yeah, I get it. I've been having major deja vu repeatedly.
Right? Yeah, so you're feeling it too.
Yeah, but it almost seems like more than that. I think if we got on with the show, maybe something will shake loose.
Yeah, it's worth a shot. So, Leia, what movie are we talking about today?
Obviously, we're talking about Groundhog Day.
Okay, movie lovers, come on in and don't forget your popcorn because we're gonna be here a while.
I'm Brandon.
And I'm Leia.
Yeah, just trying to do that little DJ.
No, Brandon, no.
What?
I'm not going to let you do that to our friends and listeners. You're going to cost us the few we have with your mischief.
Come on. I thought it was funny.
No. Sorry, everyone. I'm sorry. But Brandon, please, just read the plot.
Okay.
Okay, campers, rise and shine, and don't forget your booties, because it's cold out there. It's cold.
Groundhog Day.
Yay.
A comedy released in 1993. A friendly conversationalist tone greets us as we listen to off-the-cuff quips and cozy chatter from a weathercaster who exaggeratedly gestures while delivering the nation's temperatures and weather patterns.
It's going to meet up with all of this moisture coming up out of the Gulf, going to mix together at high altitudes and cause some snow.
This semi-local celebrity is Phil Connors, who happens to be played by Bill Murray. He's a weather journalist for WPBH in Pittsburgh. Very notably, he mentions a large cold front. Those big blue things.
With his hands pushing it.
Exactly.
Along the wall.
Delivering some nasty weather. However, Phil assures the viewer that it will indeed skip the Pittsburgh area and instead hit Altoona.
Going out on a limb now, not going to hit us here in Pittsburgh, going to push off and hit Altoona.
Phil's co-anchor mentions that he's heading out to Punxsutawney to cover the local Groundhog Day celebration.
You mean she makes fun of him?
In a very sarcastic way, yes. In an undercutting manner. Which this happens to be his yearly fluff piece, 4 years running. This will be his fourth, where Punxsutawney Phil will predict just how much longer the nation will suffer under the yoke of the oppressive winter. Briefly, we get to meet Phil's cameraman, Larry, played by Chris Elliott, and his new producer, Rita, who's played by Andy McDowell. Both of these poor souls will be joining Phil for his, entirely without hyperbole, pleasurable pastime in Punxsutawney spent grinning with the gregarious groundhog, who happens to share his first name.
That's a lot of G's.
Thank you.
Gregarious groundhog.
In the news van, we start to get a much better feel for Phil's real off-screen personality.
Someday somebody's going to see me interviewing a groundhog. I think I don't have a future.
He's kind of a jerk. He's rude, self-obsessed, egotistical, and doesn't seem to have much concern for sparing the feelings of those around him.
I know you're egocentric. It's your defining characteristic.
Phil wakes the next morning in his B&B to the calming melody of I Got You, Babe
da, 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 da.
by Sonny and Cher. As Phil readies for the day, the local radio personality delivers a weather report that distinctly contradicts Phil's from the previous day.
The report, the National Weather Service is calling for a big blizzard thing.
Yes, they are, but
With an incoming blizzard.
Absurd.
Right? It's ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Phil knows what he's talking about. Making his way across town to Groundhog Central, Phil is absolutely accosted by chatty tourists.
think it'll be an early spring.
Matronly B&B keeper.
There's talk of a blizzard.
Beekeeper, I thought that was funny. An unfortunate, unhoused man, and worst of all, Ned.
Ned! Ryerson!
Ned Ryerson.
Ned Ryerson!
Bing!
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 Relieved to have finally made it to his shooting location, Phil banters with his cadre and reluctantly begins his coverage.
Then it's the same old shtick every year. The guy comes out with a big stick and raps on the door.
Pull the rodent out and chat with it. The prediction is given in this year, drum roll please,
Sorry, folks. 6 more weeks of winter.
So, did he see a shadow then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately so. Phil delivers this bad news, dripping in sarcasm, and signs off.
This is one time where television really fails to capture the true excitement of a large squirrel predicting the weather.
Rita tries to persuade him to give it another sarcasmless take, and Phil rejects the idea, anxious to get the hell out of Punxsutawney. Speeding along the road, the weather crew leave the tiny hamlet behind and head home. Upon reaching the interstate, they find a blocked freeway and quickly worsening blizzard conditions.
Dun, dun, dun.
Indeed, menacing. Informed that the way forward is untravelable,
Now you can go back to Punxsutawney, or you can go ahead and freeze to death. It's your choice.
the trio head back to the rooms in Punxsutawney. The trio head back to the rooms in Punxsutawney, saddened and incredibly inconvenienced. Phil calls it an early night, doing his best to sleep his time away in this tiny town and forget that he's stuck here for one more day.
Just one more.
Just one more. Chances of departure, 80%. Successful in his slumber, Phil wakes the next morning, once again at 6 a.m. Sonny and Cher slowly rouse the serene sleeper.
Da, da, da. I got you, babe.
And the same radio broadcast is playing.
Oh. Tired old tape, guys.
Yeah. Scoffing at the obviously amateur mistake, Phil quips about the local radio talent accidentally playing yesterday's tape.
Nice going, boys. You're playing yesterday's tape.
That's not the only thing that feels amiss to Phil. He notices a suspiciously large number of people out early, heading to the center of town again. The same people he encountered and chatted with yesterday, tracking him down and saying all the exact same things they said the day before.
Think it'll be an early spring.
Didn't we do this yesterday?
Phil, very confused, heads to the center of town and finds the Groundhog Day festivities in full swing again. He even finds his weather crew set up and ready to cover the event once more, and Phil just cannot figure this whole crazy day out.
Well, it's Groundhog Day. Again?
Could you imagine, though?
Absolute nightmare.
It would be the weirdest thing that would ever happen to you.
Yeah, you know, as odd as it would be, I don't think I'd be as down about it as Phil would.
Yeah.
Because it would be an insane mystery and I'd love to figure it out.
Do you think you'd still be chalking up to deja vu at this point?
No.
No, it'd be too coincidental.
I would be off my damn rocker, to be honest. To hell with this day, our frustrated main character seems to express. He heads back to his hotel and decides to test a hypothesis. He breaks the pencil he's holding and sets it atop the alarm clock. Settling in, Phil closes his eyes again and drifts off to sleep again. 6 a.m. with Sonny Bono crooning to Phil once more. I got you, babe.
Da, 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 da.
The broken pencil is unbroken and the local radio talent repeat their same inane conversation from the day before. And the day before.
And so on. And so on.
Before we all lose our minds, let's leave Phil in his B&B to his own personal nightmare while we march forward to the end of our episode, which is only just beginning.
Well, what if there is no tomorrow? There wasn't one today.
All right, Leia, so there we go. We got a little bit of a sum up on Groundhog Day, leaving the rest of the film for you to enjoy.
Yep, and enjoy you will.
And enjoy you will.
I sure hope so, at least.
Yeah, it's typically well regarded and got quite a bit of the acclaim that it so rightly deserved. But before we get to all that.
It came out in February. Groundhog's Day is February 2nd.
It is.
It came out with some of the top-rated movies. But maybe you've heard of this one.
Maybe.
Summersby?
Oh, yeah, I've heard of Summersby.
So that's a top-rated film that it came out with in February of 93.
All right. I wouldn't rate it amongst my tops, but...
Along with, it was in the top 5, I believe.
Oh.
Summersby, Aladdin, Loaded Gun 1, and Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey. Those are the top 5 movies with Groundhog's Day, of course, included.
That's
Groundhog
incredible.
Day. I want to say Groundhog.
Don't you
Lots
always
of
want to say
groundhogs.
Groundhog's Day?
Yeah.
So many groundhogs. You got to talk to them all. You got to check all their shadows.
Yeah.
The more
gotta catch them all.
groundhogs that see their shadows, the longer and longer winter will go.
Right. So let's start in with talking about the director.
Okie dokie, artichoke.
Does that sound okay?
I think so. Harold Ramis, right?
Yes.
He's our director this time?
I think a lot of people wouldn't recognize him by his name outright.
Possibly.
I know you do because
sure.
you're a big fan of Harold
yeah.
Ramis, but he was kind of the nerdy one in Ghostbusters, and I think that's where most people recognize him from.
Dr. Egon Spengler.
Dr. Egon Spengler. He actually got his start in comedy as Playboy magazine's joke editor and reviewer.
What a place to start.
Right? So he seems stuffy, but I don't think he is. I think he's not so stuffy.
He did say that he never read another Playboy again after he left that job. So maybe he really was in it
He's
just
being
for the
forced to
articles.
read those.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Poor fella. It must be a rough office.
Yeah, right? His Hollywood debut came when he collaborated on the script for National Lampoon's Animal House in 1978.
Right. Yeah.
Which is pretty epic.
Quite a movie.
To get involved in the National Lampoon genre as a whole, I think is a pretty epic move for him. And he was involved in a lot of the writing for those.
Yeah.
So he's also written 3 films that have been selected for the National Film Registry.
Blah, 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 blah.
I'll only say a whole thing once. National Film Registry by the Library of Congress for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
Yes.
He wrote National Lampoon's Animal House, Ghostbusters, and Groundhog's Day.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the latter, which he also directed.
Oh, you mean Meatballs didn't get included in that one?
It should have.
It should. I do like Meatballs. It was a fun movie.
I do. Do you have a list of some of the other things he's done?
He directed Caddyshack.
Yep.
As well as National Lampoon's Vacation.
Yep.
Also, of course, directed Groundhog Day. That's what we're talking about here. He was writer for National Lampoon's Animal House, like you mentioned before, Meatballs, Caddyshack, Stripes, Ghostbusters 1 and 2, Groundhog Day.
Mm-hmm.
And also a fairly prolific actor. Did 28 episodes on SCTV. That's kind of where he got his screen start for acting. He was obviously acted in Stripes. Did voiceover work for Heavy Metal. Of course, Ghostbusters 1 and 2. So
He did voiceover work for Heavy Metal?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
A lot of comedians of the time actually did a lot of voiceover work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, John Candy was in there.
Such a great film.
Oh, I like that one a lot. It's
underrated, and I don't think a lot of people recognize it anymore because it's kind of like it was kind of huge like when we were younger.
Yeah. Well, and it's very crude and crass, and in some ways there's a lot of stuff in there wouldn't fly anymore.
No. So you got to take it with a grain of salt, I think, too.
Kind of offensive in some aspects, but
that's why it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely an interesting cultural touchstone for sure.
Yeah. He died in 2014 from complications from an autoimmune inflammatory vasculitis. But 2 years after his death, the Second City founded the Harold Ramis Film School in his honor. And it's the first film school to focus solely on film comedy. It was founded in 2016.
All right. Yeah, that's a nice honor.
So that's something good that has come from that.
He did kind of live most of his entire career was through comedy.
Absolutely it was.
So
I don't think he took a day of his life serious. Anything else on Harold?
That's all I got for Harold. I mean, obviously, we'll end up seeing him again, so I don't want to just flood all of his information here.
Sure. Let's move on to the writer.
All right.
Writers, because Harold Ramis was one of the writers.
Yeah, co-writer.
But
Danny Rubin was the guy who started the whole idea.
Yeah, he's the one who wrote the story for it.
Yes.
And then he rewrote the story with Ramis for the screenplay.
Correct.
I couldn't find a ton about him, but he has also written screenplays for SFW in 1994, in the same year.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote Hear No Evil in 1993. He also wrote the musical.
Oh, right. The Groundhog Day musical.
The Groundhog's Day musical, which I believe came out in 2016. He continues to teach screenwriting. So he's taught at numerous universities. He also is a Briggs Copeland lecturer, or was a Briggs Copeland lecturer on English at Harvard University.
Okay.
And if anybody doesn't know who that is, it's a non-tenured track position in the Department of English. It's held by a practicing writer who's shown kind of accomplishment in fiction or poetry or nonfiction or playwriting or screenwriting.
Right.
And then they come in and, teach what they know from their job experience.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty huge honor.
Yeah, high regard.
Yeah. Oh, 2017 was a screenplay for the musical. My bad.
Oh, okay.
So close. He's been writing original songs since he was 13 years old.
Oh, likes musicals.
He likes musicals, yeah. I went to his website, and it's pretty interesting because you can read all about Groundhog's Day, which is kind of his big thing.
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day. Thank you. You can also read about he's got his original music on his website, so you can listen to his original music.
Oh, nice.
He also has all of his short stories. So you can go on there and read his short stories. And
that's really cool.
Yeah, so his website's pretty intense. If you wanted to,
there's a lot there.
Yeah, read some of his other stuff. He's got all sorts of stuff there. He also has videos of himself performing, too. So if you want to see him in action.
Good, yeah, getting himself out there.
Getting himself out there.
Well, as I can't imagine we're going to see Danny Rubin come up again in our travels. I wanted to mention that he has a BA in biology, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Because I have a bachelor's in biology as well.
You do. And then he's got a master's in radio, TV, and film from Northwestern University. So
I do not.
No, you do not.
But I do have a master's in geography.
Yes. So you're keeping up, just different track. And his musical Groundhog Day was nominated for 7 Tony Awards. I don't believe it won any.
It didn't do well.
But which
is weird because it got all these nominations, but it didn't get a lot of traffic.
Well. Yeah, it didn't perform well.
No.
And sometimes it goes that way.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen Hudsucker Proxy and Quiz Show.
Didn't perform well. Great movies.
Yeah, exactly right. Maybe a little something there. You don't always have to perform well to still get some acclaim. Even though I never saw the musical, I don't know that I'd want to see this as a musical.
No, I don't even
And I love musicals. Aside from his Tony nominations, for actual Groundhog Day, he has received a few awards. He's got a BAFTA award, ALFS award, the Laurence Olivier Award for the musical. Yeah, he's accomplished.
Yeah, absolutely. Harvard wanted him.
Right.
So.
Well, Leia, what do you say we leave Danny with his awards and talk about somebody else?
Yeah, let's go into some of the actors.
Let's do.
We'll talk about our main guy.
Oh.
The guy.
Going to old Bill.
Bill Murray. Who doesn't love Bill Murray?
A lot of people don't, but...
Personally or in movies?
Personally.
Okay, so I think most of his movies are pretty spot on.
Yeah,
pretty good.
I love his movies.
Yeah. I mean, he's done so many things, and I would say he's done mostly comedy, but he's done some serious stuff, too.
In his later years, he went more serious.
He did. The man's never had an agent.
No.
He's never had a business manager.
No.
He's never had a publicist.
Which has, in a lot of ways, worked to his benefit and detriment.
Right? He's never even had a favorite hair or makeup artist.
Yeah.
He also travels without an entourage.
That a boy.
He is a man of no man.
Yeah. Just a little Bill wandering around by himself.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because he's done very well for himself considering he doesn't have anybody doing any of that work for him.
Yeah. Well, and considering the number of roles he's missed out on because he doesn't have an agent, which means he's really hard to get a hold of.
Yeah.
The fact that he has gotten the roles that he's gotten is pretty awesome.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, it's through word of mouth. I think he knows people and they know him and they know how to get a hold of him. So you got to know somebody who knows somebody to get a hold of him.
Well, when I was reading about Bill Murray, the number of times that an article would mention Bill Murray was upset that he missed out his chance on this role.
So the movie Zombieland with Woody Harrelson actually has Bill Murray in it.
It does.
And I had read that Woody Harrelson actually asked him to be in the film as a favor. And he came and did the film. But he had to know him to do that.
Yeah.
Because how else are you going to get him?
A very short part, but really super memorable.
Yeah. His sister Nancy is a Dominican nun. Did you know that?
I had no idea.
Mm-hmm. He has 2 other brothers, I believe, as well. They're both actors.
Oh. Yeah, well, we know Brian Doyle Murray.
Also in this film. He's the co-owner of the New York Yankees, single A affiliate baseball team, the Charles River Dogs.
He seems to be a big fan of minor league baseball. Baseball in general, yes.
Yeah, in general. But I think he gets into the minor stuff because it's more fun. It's just like college football is more fun.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, for some people.
That's what they say.
Football is not my
Football!
Not my style.
He has also been in 4 films that have been selected for the National Film Registry.
Yeah, he gets around.
Tootsie, Ghostbusters, Groundhog Day.
There you go.
And Rushmore.
Right. Like I said, he somehow manages to find those roles. A few other things I'll mention too, just real fast, because of course...
He'll come up again.
There's no way we're not talking about Bill Murray again. You know what? This time I'm going to mention a few of his, in my opinion, lesser known.
Sure.
I'll stay away from his larger things that people
we
wouldn't
all know
obviously
that.
know. We mentioned Meatballs, Where the Buffalo Roam, where he played a Hunter S. Thompson before Johnny Depp.
Yeah,
Rushmore.
like King. Well, he was in Kingpin too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's also a lesser known, well known.
Let's mention Broken Flowers and we'll wrap it up right there. How about
Lost
that?
in Translation.
Lost in Translation, yeah. Oh, and Garfield the movie.
Oh, well,
That's
yeah,
his
who could forget that?
voiceover
There's your
work,
animation
right?
nod.
Okay, all right. Adios, Bill Murray. We'll talk about you later.
Andy McDowell?
Andy McDowell.
Yeah. In her first film, Graystroke, The Legend of Tarzan, Lord of the Apes from 1984, her southern accent
Oh, yeah, she's got a very thick accent.
was so thick and heavy that her voice was actually entirely dubbed by Glenn Close.
Isn't that so weird?
That is crazy to me. Glenn Close,
Yeah.
of all people.
I could not imagine Glenn Close's voice coming out of Andy McDowell. And I have seen Greystoke one time in my life. I don't even remember how old I was. I was so young, I can't even recall.
Did it seem weird?
To my young person
No.
viewing, no.
It was good.
Because I had no concept of, hey, this is not this person's voice.
Right.
And I honestly, at this point, thinking back, I do not recall what it sounded like or how it
We're going to
would
have
look
to watch it
coming out
again,
of
I
her
think,
mouth.
maybe.
But yeah, I
Even
think
if it's just briefly.
Just a few clips, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could sit through the whole Greystoke again.
You know, aside from Groundhog Day, she was also in Sex, Lies, and Videotape, which are also both films in the National Film Registry.
Right.
Yeah, so a lot of people so far
Yeah.
in that registry.
Really registered cast.
I mean, obviously they're all in there because of the film Groundhog Day.
Right. Yeah,
They
well,
also
yeah,
have
yeah,
other
obviously.
films under their belt as well.
Other
so.
films that surround and get stuck in that same legacy.
Yeah.
Well, I'll also mention she was in Hudson Hawk because we've talked about Bruce Willis how many episodes ago?
Multiplicity.
And, Multiplicity with Michael Keaton,
Yeah.
right? Which Harold Ramis also wrote that one.
Did he?
He did.
We've talked about this before, but writers, directors tend to bring back people that they like to
get
work
their
with.
babies.
Yeah. She was also in The Practice, 30 Rock,
Oh, right, yeah.
Magic Mike XXX.
Oh, boy. Now we're talking. I mean, I could watch some of those dancing scenes for a while.
They're kind of fun.
Yeah, they're fun.
All right, settle down.
Okay.
Most recently, she was in 21 episodes of the TV series The Way Home. So she's still working tight.
You know, Leia, I was hoping you were going to say NCIS or CSI or anything like that, but I don't believe this time around we've got...
Later on, I do have a jab at that.
Oh, do you?
I do. I did not forget.
Oh,
Don't worry.
Fantastic. Okay.
Do not worry.
Well,
I have one more thing to mention about Andy.
okay.
She's the first actress in U.S. cinema history to bank back-to-back #1 films in the American box office during the same year for the movies 4 Weddings and a Funeral and for Bad Girls.
Wow. Way to go, Andy. Bringing in that cash.
Yeah, that's an accomplishment.
Yeah, that's a good accolade.
Mm-hmm. Should we move on to one more?
Sure, why not? Who have you got on deck today?
The last one I wanted to talk about, just very briefly, is Chris Elliott.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So he's the camera guy
Yep.
for the movie station when they go to Punxsutawney.
Larry.
Punxsutawney. Larry. Very awkward, but very nice, sweet guy.
Super nice guy.
He's actually won 4 consecutive Primetime Emmy Awards for his writing for various things. So he's quite an accomplished writer himself.
Yeah.
He's been in a lot of television shows.
Yeah, he has. He really lives in TV.
He does. Most recently, I remember him in Schitt's Creek as Roland, which, I mean, he's just great in that TV show.
Yeah.
He's also been in Everybody Loves Raymond, How I Met Your Mother, Adult Swim's Eagle Heart.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
He was in the movies Something About Mary, Snow Day, Scary Movie 2. He was also in Kingpin.
Mm-hmm.
He's done his rounds, coincidentally. So we know that Bill Murray was on Saturday Night Live.
Right.
He turned down the offer to join the cast of Saturday Night Live in 1986. Things could have been so different.
Yeah. I wonder why he said no.
I don't know.
That's not usually one that most people
No.
hear say no to.
But maybe he was doing something else at the time
possibly.
and just wasn't able to
Had
do
better
it.
aspects, I guess.
Elliot has also written 4 books spoofing history or pseudo-history.
Likes to make stuff up.
He likes to write. He likes to make stuff up. Well, he's a comedian.
He
so,
is a comedian
you know.
and a TV writer, so got that creativity. Just can't stop it.
So you had mentioned earlier that the film has gotten quite a bit of acclaim.
Yeah.
This film had 4.85 legs.
Oh, boy.
So we're in the middle there.
Almost a fifth leg going on.
Almost a 5th leg.
Man, so close.
Its opening weekend, it made $12,500,000.
That's a fair amount of money.
Domestic box office, it made $70 million, almost $71 million.
Not bad for a comedy.
On a production budget of $14.6 million. So it did okay.
Yeah, I think the producers and studio execs were probably pretty happy.
They were okay with that, I think.
Yeah, I think think so.
It's won quite a few nominations for various things, but most notably 94 Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films Saturn Award, nominee for Best Fantasy Film, for Best Actor, Best Director, Best Writer, and Costume Design. And then Andie MacDowell actually won the award for Best Actress in that category. And it was nominated for the 94 American Comedy Awards for Funniest Actor in Motion Picture, for the leading role for Bill Murray, and for the Funniest Supporting Actor in a Motion Picture for Chris Elliott. So he got a little nomination nod there for his work.
Good for him.
And then you had mentioned that Harold Ramis was the BAFTA Award winner for Best Original Screenplay. And then the 93 MTV Movie and TV Awards Best Comedic Performance went to Bill Murray. So you got that one.
Yep.
Can't scoff at the MTV Music Awards.
No.
People watch those,
Yeah,
you know?
it's popular enough.
It's popular enough. Of course, it got a slew of 2020 award nominations.
Of course it did.
In the year 2014. And it did win for Best Original Screenplay, of course, by Harold Ramis, because, you know, it's amazing. And then in 2006 was actually when it was preserved in the National Film Registry.
Oh, nice. I do have to mention, unless you got something else you need to say real fast.
Nope.
So I do have to mention, just because I thought it was pretty coincidental.
Okay.
So last episode we talked about True Romance, right? And how Christian Slater lost the Saturn Award to Robert Downey Jr. in Heart and Souls, right?
What? Who lost it to somebody in Heart and Souls?
Bill Murray.
Lost
to Robert Downey Jr. in Heart and Souls.
Really? Was he in the same category with Christian Slater?
Yes.
For this movie?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's crazy.
Isn't that weird?
Nice connection, Brandon.
Yeah, I thought that.
Neat. I bet you that
was
pissed you
silly.
off when you read it.
Oh, man, that damn movie. Robert Downey Jr.
It's not that good, man.
I mean, good for him, but holy
that
hell.
movie?
Save some for everyone else, okay?
Let's talk about a little bit of the inspiration for the film, because there was some very distinct inspiration for this film.
Sure.
Particularly from the screenwriter and original writer, Danny Rubin. He was accused of ripping off a lot of story ideas from a lot of different writers. None of that really came to fruition. Nobody could prove that he ripped anybody off. Because, I mean, how many times has somebody written a story about a day that happens over and over again?
There's no original stories anymore.
No, it happens. And, like, at what point do you say you ripped me off?
Right.
Unless it's word for word and it's plagiarized. He did say, though, his jumping off point came from the 1982 story Christmas Every Day by William Dean Howells.
Okay.
So that's kind of his, like, jumping off platform. He also said he was reading the novel The Vampire Lestat from Anne Rice's series of novels. And he said it got him thinking about immortality. And he ended up realizing it would be too hard or expensive to make a film about something growing as a person over centuries. So he married that idea to this idea and created the Groundhog's Day just one day over and over again.
In a damn loop.
Instead of doing history, you know, throughout 100 years, which he felt would be too expensive and difficult. So we had mentioned that he wrote the screenplay with Harold Ramis. He had mentioned that he felt there was something a little odd about watching the film.
Right.
Because he had this original idea when he wrote the story, and it was a much darker idea.
Yeah, way darker.
And in the spoilers, we'll kind of cover that a little bit, but he had a much darker idea for the story. And he said he was watching the film, and it was strange to watch something you've created, but you don't remember that in your vision at all. And now they're there. Like, there's something there that wasn't there before, even though you wrote it.
Yeah, and there's things that you wrote that are not there.
Yeah, so it's got to be odd to have this idea in your head and then watch it and you're like, okay.
Probably watching along being like, oh, I know this beat and then this beat and then whoa.
Yeah, wait, do I like this film? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny you mentioned him not knowing if, you know, how to feel about the film, because saying that it started out as a darker idea, Harold Ramis and Bill Murray sort of got in an argument over this film, and the fact that Harold Ramis wanted to make it more comical and Bill Murray wanted it to remain more philosophical and serious.
He wanted it to be more serious, which you wouldn't expect, but
no,
that's
not
what
typically,
he
but
wanted.
that's what he was aiming for. And obviously Harold Ramis ended up getting his way, but it did cause quite a rift between the two for a long time.
Danny Rubin also pulled from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 5 Stages of Death and Dying as a model for Phil. And then Harold Ramis said that he actually continued to use that as a template for Bill Murray's progress throughout the film.
Sure.
So that's another little piece of inspiration they pulled in for this as well.
Yeah, you can see him kind of going through those denial and acceptance and, you know, all those different stages as the film progresses.
You can see it happening as the film goes on. Yeah, it's pretty stark.
Yeah.
There's also another little scene in the movie at the very beginning.
Okay.
The very, very beginning, where he's the weatherman.
Yep.
And he's kind of making jokes as he's talking about the weather pushing through.
What's that going to mean to us here in the Three Rivers area? One of these big blue things, this cold, frigid Arctic air, this big mass.
Harold Ramis said he incorporated elements from David Letterman and Pat Sajak because they were both weathermen themselves, and they used being a weatherman as a platform for, like a jumping off point for their careers.
Yeah, to launching a larger career, for sure.
I never thought about that as being a jumping off point, but it makes sense, total sense.
In my life, I've always, I've not been a big news consumer, not a big television news consumer, I should say. Most of the news that I usually get through print.
From vetted sources.
Right, but whenever you would watch the news, you would see the weather person doing their thing out there, and you never think about them outside of just their little weather segment. The anchors, you see the anchors all the time plastered on commercials and promotionals and billboards and whatnot. But the weather person, just kind of there for their little segment and gone again.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I wonder how many people started in weather besides David Letterman and Pat
Probably
Sajak.
more than we know.
Right?
Taking over the world.
Taking over the airwaves.
The new Illuminati.
There's one more little bit of inspiration that I wanted to touch on, and it's based on a line that he says in the film.
Okay.
I don't want to give away too much about the scene because it's kind of a funny scene, but there's a scene where Bill Murray goes, "Don't drive angry! Don't drive angry!"
Yeah, he's talking to the groundhog, right?
He's shouting at the groundhog.
Don't drive angry. Don't drive angry.
And it's not inspiration for the film, but it inspired another film, and it inspired Nicolas Cage's film Drive Angry.
Oh, right.
And it's just the phrase,
just the
"Don't
title,
drive angry," inspired that. He actually improvised the line when the groundhog started acting agitated and tried to climb over the steering wheel. And then,
I can see that.
And then moments after that, the groundhog bit the shit out of him.
Yeah.
And he had to seek medical attention.
I heard he got bit a number of times on this.
A couple times at least.
There's a lot of sequences where he's interacting with that damn groundhog.
Well, it wasn't a trained groundhog.
No. How many trained groundhogs do you think there are out there? Probably not a lot.
Not a lot.
So,
besides Puxatawny, and they couldn't use Puxatawny Phil, and they couldn't use him.
Your insurance would not cover that animal.
No. No. With that being said, I suppose we should just move into our next segment, which is just a movie facts.
Yeah, just all the general trivia and whatnot, yeah?
I have that in with the new, out with the old kind of thing. I just had one little one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, give us some pepper, baby.
It's just a little spice.
Uh-huh.
It's one of the final films to use the 1981 Columbia Pictures logo.
Aww.
I think
Bye-bye, old logo.
Yeah. One of the last films to do it.
Interesting.
Not a big one, but it is out with the old and with the new.
Got to give the old Columbia lady a little update, yeah?
Yeah.
Maybe a new sash or something.
Yeah, so you had mentioned earlier that Harold and Bill had kind of a falling out.
Uncomfortable.
Awkward.
Yeah.
Bill Murray, he really disliked this film for a very long time. And I think it had to do a lot with the problems he was facing. Personal life problems he was facing at the time. And you would never know it watching the film. No. But he was experiencing a lot of things.
Yeah, a lot of complications on his own personal side.
Yeah, he was going through a divorce with his wife, Margaret Kelly, at the time, with whom he had 2 children with. On top of that, he was having, like you said, the creative differences with his really close friend, Harold Ramis. I mean, they had been close for a very long time.
SCTV, if not before.
He was often said to have tantrums on set if he didn't get what he wanted. He'd show up on set late. Not only did he dislike the direction the film was going, but it was also speculated that he felt his fame was highly connected to Ramis, so he's worried people wouldn't take him seriously as an actor. So I think he was kind of lashing out a little bit because he was doing this as a favor to Ramis, but I don't think he really wanted to do it anymore with Ramis.
Yeah.
That complication kind of caused that friendship to fall apart.
Unfortunately.
For the better part of 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years, which I thought was incredible. And really it's sad because they didn't reconnect again until shortly before Ramis's death.
Yeah, and that's the worst part.
He was almost completely, he couldn't talk anymore when he finally came over to talk to him.
About 2 weeks before he had passed away.
It's so sad.
It's heartbreaking. Really is.
I'm telling y'all, don't be mad at the people you love and wait forever.
Wait until it's too late.
Don't wait till it's too late. Call them right now. Pick up the phone. Stop listening to the podcast.
No. Wait till we're done.
Oh, no. It'd be too late.
No, it's never too late.
All right.
As far as our episode
I think
exists.
it'd be too late, but Brandon's saying to stay on the podcast.
Our show exists in a time loop.
Okay.
You can call them whenever you want.
Ramis and Murray did a lot of things together. They did the National Lampoon's show off Broadway, Meatballs, Stripes, Caddyshack, Ghostbusters. I mean, they've done a lot of stuff together.
A lot of partnership.
So I think I can see why maybe Murray thought his fame was connected to Ramis in some small way.
They were just always together.
He wanted to grow up and be a big boy.
He wanted to be on his own a little bit.
Ramis actually did consider other stars for the role.
That's not unsurprising.
Yeah, he did consider Tom Hanks and Michael Keaton as a couple examples.
And he would get his time with Keaton later on with Multiplicity.
With Multiplicity, yeah. I think Tom Hanks turned it down because he was doing something else at the time.
Yeah, there always seems to be other choices, and it is always hard to think of other choices in the roles that you know that are so familiar. But if you never knew, maybe it would have been just fine.
I don't know. I feel like Bill Murray nailed this, though.
Oh, I do too. I think he was great in this movie.
Speaking of being great in this movie, Ramis kind of knows Bill Murray really well, and you had mentioned something about the filming.
Yeah, because of their long partnership, Ramis knows Bill Murray's temperament, let's say. That being the case, Ramis figured it'd be best, knowing that Bill Murray, as shooting goes on, tends to get crankier and crankier and crankier.
He's like a toddler who hasn't had a nap.
Right. So not only does the film portray a person stuck in a time loop, but they almost had to shoot the film in reverse order because Ramis decided it would be best to shoot the scenes where Phil is happiest first. And then
they knew he'd get crabbier as it went on.
And then at the end, shoot the ones where he's Cranky Phil, which is how he begins the film. So
I love that so much.
It's a smart choice. Smart choice. You got to work around the talent sometimes.
Dan Aykroyd actually nicknamed him the Murricane.
Oh, yeah.
Because of his notoriously bad mood swings.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Another good friend of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also in Ghostbusters.
This film wasn't actually shot in Punxsutawney.
No, it wasn't.
It was filmed in Woodstock, Illinois.
I've never been to Punxsutawney, so I don't know what it looks like. So I would have never known.
No, I don't think most people do unless you're from there.
Right. I've also never been to Woodstock, Illinois, so I would also have never known.
There is a little nod to Woodstock, Illinois in the film.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, so there's a scene downtown with Ned Ryerson.
Needle-nosed Ned the head. Come on, buddy. Case Western High.
And in the background, there's a sign that says Woodstock Jewelers. And you'll see that over and over again because you see Ned Ryerson.
The filming location snuck its way in there.
It did.
Woodstock has also placed commemorative plaques around town.
Have they?
Yeah.
Well, they should.
So there's a plaque.
Big part of their history.
Mostly revolving around Phil's interaction with Ned.
Bing!
Yeah?
Shockingly. Because there's a plaque where Bill Murray has his interaction with Ned. It's called Phil's Corner, the plaque says.
Is the pothole still there too?
I believe
they created that for the film.
Yeah, the pothole is fixed, but there is a plaque where that pothole was.
That's so awesome.
That says Bill Murray stepped here.
That's so awesome. Several times.
Several times.
Watch out for that first step. It's a doozy.
That scene was so well watched by the community during the scening or the filming where they were shooting with Ned Ryerson.
Bing.
Bing! He actually went into the local bakery and bought 500 Danishes and coffee for everyody who was watching.
Do you think the bakery had 500 Danishes on hand?
I really hope he called ahead.
Yeah, I would hope so.
I really hope he called ahead. Because when I thought about that, I was like, 500 Danishes? Yeah. What little bakery in some small town can make 500 Danishes?
I don't think I could even go to the local Dunkin' Donuts and
say,
pick up 500 total donuts.
I need 500 donuts. Stack.
Yeah, right.
I mean, maybe they were producing them already because they knew there was going to be a lot of people there.
Yeah,
I don't
possibly,
know.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe they were looking ahead at the tourism and film production anyway.
Yeah. After they decided not to shoot in actual Punxsutawney, the folks from the city wouldn't allow Punxsutawney Phil to be used in the movie.
Yeah, I could see them being a little butthurt about it.
Yeah. So that's why they brought in a wild groundhog.
Yeah, they got the scab groundhog.
They trapped a wild groundhog, slapped a sticker on him called Scooter, and they used him for the film.
Why not?
It's no wonder Bill Murray got bit several times, because the freaking groundhog got pulled out of the ground.
I mean, they seem to have found the best possible behaved wild groundhog.
I was surprised. I'm like, really? That's a wild groundhog? Because he's handling all this really well.
Hopefully they were feeding him really well. Maybe that is what kept him calm.
I think it was therapy.
Because I think if I were just caught and put in this movie and handled the way that groundhog was,
oh my God,
I would be more cranky than that groundhog was.
I mean,
I'd be biting everybody. Screw everybody.
Bully for that groundhog. Good for you, buddy.
I'd come out. And
good for you, Scooter.
Even if I didn't see my shadow, I'd be like, yep, there it is. 6 more weeks of winter, jackasses.
Scooter ended up in other films after this, too, so... They never released him back.
Wow, okay. I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't either. They didn't send him back. They kept him and put him in a couple other films.
Weird.
He was a star at that point.
Do you think he toured with the musical?
I don't know. Probably not. I don't think he was alive anymore.
Oh, poor fella.
Yeah.
Too many Danishes.
Too many Danishes. Yeah, of the 500, I heard Scooter ate 72.
That a boy, packing them away. They offered Bill Murray, in the movie, there's a sequence where Phil is at a cafe and he's just chowing down on sweets, donuts and cakes.
Oh, yeah. He's shoving them in his mouth with his fingers, which is so funny.
Who cares? It doesn't matter anymore. They offered him a spit bucket so he could, chew,
He didn't
fake
spit
swallow.
any out, did he?
No. He said, nope, screw it. I'm just eating it. So he just kept, admittedly, he said he did end up feeling sick afterwards.
Shock.
But he just ate it.
One of my favorite scenes is where she's just staring at him and he's literally got a donut in his mouth and he's pushing it with 2 fingers around the backs of his teeth just to get it in his mouth.
Yep. And then she recites a poem at him about gluttony and laziness. And what a guy. Oh, also, I needed to mention this because you had mentioned to me beforehand, so I'm going to start it and you can take the rest. We talked about how the outdoor scene where he's stepping in the pothole and buying the Danishes and all that. A lot of the outdoor scenes and concern for the weather staying consistent, what did they have to do?
They had to reshoot the scenes, but only in that same day. So the Ned Ryerson scene, that was all of the different occurrences of that.
Different iterations
were all done in the same day because they didn't want the weather to look different from day to day.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be the exact same day, not close.
I should check to see if the shadows change. I'm curious if the shadows change or if they
the time changing.
Yeah, or if they used lighting to make the shadows look the same. Never really checked that before, but now I'm gonna have to go back and look to see because I'm sure the sun. I mean, they didn't do it all in an hour.
No,
but
there was a lot of clouds. It was
That's
very
true.
overcast
It was very
the whole
overcast.
Production, it seems.
It was like 20 degrees or something.
So cold. When he's talking and walking with Ned Ryerson, and you see Ned talking, and just these big puffs of breath.
Real. That was real.
Yeah.
It was cold. I heard it was miserable, and they would go inside between shoots. Oh my gosh.
Nasty. I hate the cold.
Can't tell me that actors don't sacrifice.
They do. They do, I suppose.
A little bit. Ramis, Murray, and Stephen Tobolowsky, who played Ned Ryerson, they have all been honorary grand marshals in Punxsutawney on Groundhog Day.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially for that little town, if they're going to try to bring even more tourism in, because I'm sure that they love those tourism dollars.
Oh, speaking of tourism dollars, after this film came out, their numbers of, I should have written it down, but the number of people who showed up for Groundhog Day tripled, quadrupled. It blew up.
Yeah, I think it went up exponentially.
Exponentially, yeah.
Which obviously tourism dollars would then increase exponentially as well. So yeah, quite the thing for little Punxsutawney, even though this movie was not shot there.
That's true. I have to say music has a big influence in this film.
Yeah, it does have a large place in it.
I think part of that stems from the writer being so intrinsically involved in music as a young boy.
You mentioned that earlier.
But the opening song, I Got You, Babe, was actually a song that Harold Ramis had picked from the very beginning.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it was because of the repeating, I Got You, Babe, da, 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 over and over and over again. What was the song they played during the festivities? The polka.
Pennsylvania polka.
Pennsylvania polka gets played over and over again because... I mean, you've seen the same day over and over again.
Yeah.
You're going to hear that song.
I thought it would be an interesting statistic. And I tried, maybe I just wasn't doing the right Google foo, I don't know.
Google foo?
Google foo. So I could not find the answer to how many times was I Got You, Babe, and how many times was the Pennsylvania polka played in this movie. I couldn't find it. So I did the work.
You did the work?
I counted it.
All right. And the number is?
The number is 10 times for I Got You, Babe, and 6 times for the Pennsylvania Polka.
The only, and I shouldn't say the only song, because there might be more songs that we heard. The only one that I remember hearing just the one time was the song at the very end of the film. And the song is Almost Like Being in Love.
Oh, yeah.
Almost like being in love. Yeah. The song was originally in Brigadoon from 1954. It is a musical with a very similar theme to this movie. So they used that specific song from that musical as a nod to the reoccurring days over and over again.
How appropriate.
Yeah, except, at the end you only hear it the one time.
Just the once.
Just the once.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
So just one more kind of musical mention I've got here. So there's a sequence in the film where Phil Connors is trying to learn how to play piano. So he finds this little piano teacher in town and
pays her $1,000.
$1,000 every day, I'm sure, because what's money to him? He doesn't care.
No.
She doesn't have it the next day. And he has it. So it starts out with him not playing very well, but by the end, it shows him playing fairly, not perhaps expertly, but damn good enough to perform in public, right? Well, the song that he plays at the instructor's house, the last one before he goes and plays in public, is actually a song by Rachmaninoff called Rhapsody on a Theme of Paganini. Well, Bill Murray, obviously the actor who played Phil Connors, he can't read sheet music, but it actually is him playing that song, and he learned to play at least that little bit, learned to play it by ear.
That's pretty cool.
So that's pretty talented.
That might have been fun for him to do, something to keep his mind off of other problems or troubles.
Yeah, just a little something to
especially
distract
during
for
this
a few
film.
minutes.
He learned to play the piano in this film because he was reliving day after day after day. There's a lot of speculation about how many days he had relived this day over and over again. And a lot of people have tried to calculate how many days it is.
Yeah, a lot of different numbers out there.
A lot of different numbers. The commentary special feature for the film with director Harold Ramis said that Phil relived the day 10,000 years before later saying it was probably like 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
So that didn't really give anybody any information. WhatCulture.com ran some numbers, and they revealed the number was something more like 12,000 days, which is about 33 years, to give people perspective. We do see him relive Groundhog's Day at least 38 times in the movie, while another 414 days were mentioned in the film.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of days.
So What a Culture then used the theory that it takes 10,000 hours to master any one subject.
Yeah, sensible.
Which brings his total to at least 12,395 days. Assuming he mastered the piano, French poetry, and ice sculpting at different times, because he had mastered all those things in this film. According to the website Wolfnards.
It's a reference to Monster Squad.
Yeah.
Wolfman's got nards.
Wolfnards. Bill Murray spent 8 years, 8 months, and 16 days strapped in Groundhog's Day. A wildly different number.
Yeah, very, very different.
The Movie Truth Review series calculated Murray spent 4,576 days, which is about 12 years, 6 months, and 11 days stuck in the loop. While the website Obsessed with Film claims he was trapped 12,403 days, which is just under 34 years, in order to account for becoming a master piano player and ice sculptor and all that kind of stuff. It seems to me that the rough calculation's about 30 years.
Yeah. I'd
give or
say
takes, 5-6 years.
Seems about right.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say that I can understand having, the amount of hours for all that mastery. And that's a fairly acceptable calculation. Though I will say, would he really be considered a French poetry master? He only speaks French poetry a few times. Maybe he just learned those particular French poems.
Maybe.
So I think saying that he
But he was saying it with such eloquence and grace.
He was. There's a lot of people who can memorize stuff pretty easily.
We'll take that out, and he spent 20 years. Either way, he spent a long time stuck in that loop.
Yeah, he did.
So that is, as far as like regular trivia, that it doesn't spoil anything, that's all I have.
Yeah, I think I've got only really 2 other things that aren't really technically spoilers, but I want to put them in there anyway.
Yeah.
Let's just head on into that spoiler section.
That spoiler territory.
I mean,
this one has a lot, because there's a lot to the ending and to the original screenplay that I just didn't want to give away.
And that's kind of where I fell into. Some of my stuff is stuff that was in the original screenplay, but not included in the movie at all.
I think a lot of people know how this movie goes.
Yeah.
And they've seen it. But if you haven't, I don't want to spoil it for you.
This is your time. in, get on out, come back in, and then get
on out. Cover your ears, whatever you want to do.
Get on out, come back in.
Earmuffs?
Something like that.
Head out, come back in, head out, come back in.
Yeah.
Like deja vu, man.
Something like that. This is your chance. Bye-bye for now.
I could come back if you're not ready.
Here we go.
So the original screenplay?
Yeah.
Was much darker.
It was.
They actually gave a reason for why he was stuck in this loop over and over again, which they didn't give in the film.
No.
You have no idea. The only indication that you could be like, oh, maybe that was the moment. There was a time where he was talking on the phone and he was hitting the head with like a shovel.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Somebody was like, oh, that could have been the moment.
Maybe that knocked him into
a time loop.
I think that's a little bit of a stretch.
Not really the official reason, particularly if you look at how it was originally written.
Mm-hmm.
Early drafts of the script explained that Phil Connor's weird experiences were due to a disaffectionate ex-lover named Stephanie.
Yeah.
Who cast a spell on him to teach him a lesson, to make sweet love to groundhogs all over the land while reading Charles Dickens while covered in shame.
I thought that was really odd curse, but I dig it.
It was decided that leaving it out made it a little more magical, a little less creepy.
I think so too. And I do have to say that, okay, so he was stuck in this time loop for how long? He's the only one who realized he was stuck in this time loop, but he wasn't the only one stuck in the time loop.
No.
Everyone was.
Yes. But did they know they were?
Nobody else knew, but everybody
was stuck.
And it would have had to have been the whole world. Unless the world was just looking in at Punxsutawney like, what the hell is going on over here? And then when they leave Punxsutawney, would all of a sudden they be 33 years older or 10,000 years older than the people who were stuck there?
But it's magic. You are thinking way too philosophically here.
What a hell of a curse is what I'm saying. I'm glad they left that curse out.
Another part of that curse was that when Ruben originally wrote the story, Phil, when he breaks the time loose and confesses his love to Rita, Rita is not ready to fall in love and he kind of rejects Phil.
Right.
The twist is that the original written story was that she enters a time loop of her own.
Yeah.
And then the film ends on that existential note where she is just reliving what he just got out of.
February 3rd.
I think that would have been an interesting sequel. Yeah,
that would have been interesting. I think it would have been an odd ending.
She's stuck in her own time loop. He remembers his time loop. Mm-hmm. And then she tells him, I'm in this time loop, and he's trying to help her find out why she's stuck in this time loop. Or maybe she has to fall in love with him, but she's not actually in love with him anymore. I mean, it could have been a really good sequel.
I think it would have been a good sequel, but I don't like the idea of that woman's fate being tied to loving that man.
No. But maybe it wouldn't have been. Maybe she just had to fall in love. It didn't have to be him. Or maybe she had to right a wrong, but maybe it wasn't necessarily what they were thinking that wrong was. Yeah. I mean, they could have put a really cool twist on it and made it really interesting. So I don't know why I have this in the spoiler section, but remember I said there was a Law and Order connection?
Oh, right. Yeah. No, I totally forgot about that. Oh, yeah. Let's cover that.
I put it in spoilers.
Well, yeah.
But I don't know why, because it's really not a spoiler.
You wanted to spoil the surprise that we had this waiting for us that we totally forgot about by now.
Well, I suppose it is kind of a spoiler because it has to do with the couple that were having marital problems. And then at the end, he gets them back together.
Yeah, he gives them WWE tickets.
Yeah, they give him WWE tickets and they get all excited about it.
Yeah.
Well, the gentleman who plays the guy that's getting married is the actor Michael Shannon.
Oh, yeah.
This was his cameo role.
First movie, yeah.
So breakout role. He's been in Knives Out. He played White Death in Bullet Train. He was also in Law and Order Special Victims Unit.
You got it.
Bam!
There we go.
Got it.
I feel complete now.
Yeah, I know. I had to find one, and I found a good one.
You did.
Because he's a pretty well-known actor.
Yeah, he's a prolific actor.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there you go. There's your jab at Law and Order. I know. Were you worried?
I was.
You would have gotten to the end and been like, oh my God,
Leia,
something's missing. What's missing?
I do feel like now
we're complete.
We can end this episode.
No, I got more to say.
Never mind. In a minute. I feel like we can end it. We can end it when you're ready.
It'll get there.
All right.
In the film, Bill Murray and Ned Ryerson have multiple encounters.
They do.
Well, one of the last encounters he has outside, not when he talks to him later, when he's all famous and everybody loves him, but the last encounter he has as an insurance agent.
Yeah.
He ad-libs the line, I don't know where you're headed, but can you call in sick?
I don't know where you're headed, but can you call in sick?
He ad-libbed that line. And I feel like that was a genius ad lib because that was one of my favorite scenes in that film.
Right.
Pulls him in for like a passionate hug
an embrace.
and Ned just like
Ned takes off.
And takes off running. Oh, so great. That scene was awesome. There's also another kind of ad lib he makes, and he says, "Groundhogs, they used to mean something in this town.
Right.
They used to pull the hog out and they used to eat it." All passionate and like desperate because he's just he's wigging out. It's actually sort of an accurate statement because
true.
The real Groundhog's Day events back in like the 1880s when they had the Elks Lodge, they used to organize hunting parties and they actually served groundhog at the lodge events.
Yeah.
The last time, it's actually February 2nd, and Phil Connors kisses Rita, and then it begins to snow.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first time we see snow. It doesn't snow throughout all of the iterations because it's a loop.
Oh, right, yeah.
So you don't see snow.
You see it the first day.
You see it the first day, but like all the iterations, because it's the same day over and over again, you don't see it. The last scene where he kisses her and it's all broken.
Yeah.
Suddenly it snows.
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to be like an indication that the loop has been broken. That was kind of like the big indication. It actually is something that also happened in the end of It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh,
where
right,
snow signifies that George Bailey's back in reality where he's supposed to exist.
Huh.
So that was kind of a nod to It's a Wonderful Life.
A little connection.
In the final shot where they play that song that I had mentioned, Almost Like Being in Love, and he picks up Rita and they're walking away in the distance, you see him step over this gate.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of opening the gate, he steps over it. I remember watching it this last time we watched it, and I'm like, that's weird. I wonder why he did that. It was frozen shut, so they weren't able to open it. So he just stepped over it. Ah, genius.
That chills me to the bone. I don't like that.
So funny. All right, so that's all I have for the spoiler section as well.
Yeah, I'm tapped. I got nothing else.
This was a really interesting film to talk about because I didn't realize how much trivia there would be in this film.
For an odd little comedy.
Yeah.
Well, not little. It's big. People know this movie.
Like Dumb and Dumber level big.
Yeah, I mean, you say Dumb and Dumber to somebody, you say Groundhog Day, they know what you're talking about.
They know what you're talking about. I mean, I maybe not as popular with the younger kids as Dumb and Dumber.
No, probably not.
I feel like it's on the same level.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. All right, Brandon, I think we did it. I think this is the first time we've made it this far and everything finally feels new again.
You're right. Yeah, I don't remember this.
No, I don't either. We broke the curse, I think, the time loop or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't feel deja vu anymore, man.
I'm feeling relieved.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how tense I was feeling. Okay. Wait, hold on, though. Now that I'm thinking about it, does that mean we got to go back to our regular non-movie theater lobby jobs?
Yep.
I don't know if I want to. Crap.
We'll be doing those for a while, I think.
Can we just stay here instead? Just not go into work, just leave everybody here, stay with us?
We tried that in the Basement Chronicles, and it didn't work.
30 days, though, that was pretty good.
That was
31 days, sorry.
31 days.
Yeah, so we're not going to do this forever. Okay, so this will give us a chance to do a new movie next week, so there's that. And until next week, go ahead and check out themovietheaterlobby.com for everybody who's listening. Find us on Facebook and YouTube at The Movie Theater Lobby. Go to Blue Sky and Instagram. Find us there at The Movie Lobby at each of those places. Or email the show at themovietheaterlobby@gmail.com. And, of course, to find Brandon, go to Blue Sky, Brand MC. That's a me.
That's a me.
That's a me. And to find my wonderful co-host here, Leia, what are your interaction points?
You can find me, Leia McLeavy, at LM Nerdroom at all the previously mentioned socials and at lmnerdroom@gmail.com. And we've been posting a lot on Blue Sky, so you can interact with us there the most. We've been putting little tidbits and facts out there and really having a good time with that.
Leia's been doing a new kind of daily fact, sometimes video, sometimes text-based.
Yeah.
But trying to throw
something out there every day.
Yeah, just a little, hey guys, how you doing?
Throwing a noodle on the wall and seeing if it sticks.
Oh, a lot of them have so far.
Yeah. All right. And a quick thank you to all of our listeners and friends for joining us this week.
Mm-hmm.
And Brandon.
Yes?
Thank you.
Oh, I knew you were going to say it. I knew it. And Leia, thank you.
You're welcome.
And we will see everyone next week at
The Movie Theater Lobby.
Bye.
Goodbye.
What would you do if you were stuck in one place and every day was exactly the same and nothing that you did mattered?
That sums it up for me.